and really get a lot of it tested. But before we do a stress test, let's see where we're going to be competing on, and here we go. For those that don't know, we will repeat this every single time around. There are 2 maps that are blanked out on your screen. Those are both Clubhouse and Villa. Clubhouse saw a substantial rework, and Villa is the newest addition to Pro League. Can't play them this time around. So that leaves 5 remaining maps, 4 of which will be banned by both EG and Obey, and then we'll find the 5th map, which will be played in Evil Geniuses banning out Consulate. Not really surprised. They're not really a Consulate team. That doesn't really surprise me all that much.
I know they have some players who like playing Consulate.
Right.
From talking to Necrox, he enjoys playing it. But as a team, I wouldn't say it's their best. Interestingly, Border being banned out as well. I know they've also got questions in the back of their minds when it comes to Border. I think if you look at the stats, you look back at history, they're pretty good in Border. They win a lot there. But they've also had some pretty notable losses on that map. So it makes sense they banned that out as well. Although, honestly, from my perspective, it seems like they're kind of working into themselves here, maybe trying to hide some things. On the other hand, Obey, Bank, and Coastline, with their new roster, such a huge change. Honestly, can't tell you. I mean, Coastline clearly going to be a ban based on the preference of the players. A lot of these guys on Obey, they don't like those. They don't like Skyscraper. They don't like Coastline. Sure, Sky's not in the ban or not in the map pool anymore. But we should bring it up because they have a particular distaste.
Right.
And as for Bank, that is of course a well-known Evil Geniuses map.
And Oregon is a map that we've seen some fluctuation from EG on, and bear with us here as we're gonna have a lot to relate to EG because they've been consistent, and Obey, there's still going to be some question marks. What maps do they like to play? What operators do they like to play? How are they going to work their operator bans in as well? And these are things that we're going to be discovering about this team and some of the newer rosters for the 2 teams that we're going to be seeing next in both Space Station and Cloud9 in our 4th matchup of the day as well.
Yeah, no, the great thing about this new format, we get to see every team every day that they play, and it's just so exciting. I mean, SSG, Cloud9, I honestly cannot wait. But before we even get there, we have EG Obeys. What an amazing matchup. What an amazing set of matches for the whole day.
Yeah, I'm just really stoked that we get to see every team every single week. Like I said at the start of the broadcast, it's kind of cool that you're a fan of Obey right here, and you say, well, I get to see them once every 2 weeks. It's must-watch viewing. Now you get to see them every single week. It's great for viewership. It's great for us. It's great for the viewers, and it's good for the teams to be able to play every week too. And
not only that, but you don't just get to see them play every day. You don't just get to see them play against every team that's not them, but also twice. They're going to go, this match is going to happen again in the second half of the season. Like, we're going to see EG Obey later down the line. And maybe at that point, since it'll be so far from now, maybe there will be major differences between these squads. But before we even get there, what do we have, Parker?
The community vote. We want to know your opinion. You were right in match number 1. You weren't so right in match number 2. What do you think this time around? 80 to 20%. In all defense, Evil Geniuses are often considered the most popular team in North America. They always tend to get the community vote. Even when they're not playing particularly well or inspiring, the people are still lining up in droves behind them to support them, and it's not really a shock here, especially when you couple with the fact that Obey still has a lot to prove. But I think these numbers could rapidly change if Obey either wins or at least is very competitive today, depending on what the people think. But with that said, we're going to load into Oregon, and we're going to play a 3rd different map. We've seen Border, Consulate, and Oregon.
Yay!
We'll see what the 4th map is going to be, but we'll load up, and we'll go into Oregon. We'll start off, of course, with the operator bans.
So we've been seeing a lot of the staple maps, and this is the 3rd of the bunch. But that's not surprising. And again, I want to reiterate for the viewers who are thinking to themselves, it's the same maps we see every time. These teams can no longer play these maps in the next week. So Evil Geniuses and Obey cannot play Oregon next week, period. So they will have to go somewhere different. Glaz is going to be the first ban here, and it will be from Obey. Not a surprising ban. Actually, surprising we haven't seen him banned yet today, given that Glaz is oh so powerful as of this last patch with that rate of fire buff. Thatcher, the second one, that was Evil Geniuses attacker ban, and now they get to defend a defender, or ban a defender. They get to defend a defender.
Interestingly enough that they take the Thatcher out, that's because I would imagine Evil Geniuses will just use Twitch in place of the Thatcher there for them, so that doesn't really bother them that much to know that they'll be without a Thatcher. Glass being taken off probably largely because we know how Necrox likes to play that Glass with great reliability, and he can be a particular nightmare attacking upstairs. And then you also got to realize about Oregon, there's a third site now that you have to defend, be that either kitchen, dining hall, or back tower. We saw that Mute will join the banned list, as well as Maestro, so that will be very interesting. The Maestro pick could just simply be because of his power on this map, maybe that there have been some reports of Evil Geniuses running him in scrims. We won't really know until we get more data on that. Echo will evade the ban phase this time around, and starting on defense will be Obey, so they will have 5 kicks at that proverbial can. They'll start downstairs at Laundry Room, Supply Room, a site that saw itself fall out of favor last season, largely because of Lion's prevalence in the meta, but with Lion largely relegated to the sidelines now, we're going to go back downstairs.
Speaking of sites, you touched on it. Oregon, a map that doesn't really have, as far as the Pro League is considered, 3 viable bomb sites. A lot of teams are going to have to work in either tower, well, all teams, either tower or kitchen. And my money's on kitchen. It's definitely more in line with the current meta. And with Maestro being added, it could actually be a decent bomb site if he's allowed to be played. Though in this case, Maestro has been banned, so it's not going to happen here. We'll have to wait for later matches to make that determination.
So just to clarify for the 6th pick, because there is still some confusion, I'm sure. When the reveal phase happens, all 5 operators on both attack and defense are shown. The site is not revealed, and the 6th pick is also not revealed. So basically what happens is you saw Skies just went on to the Mira. It would not show Mira. They have no idea that there is a Mira on that team unless Evil Geniuses drone it out, or they just simply discover it upon entering the building. That 6th pick is not displayed. The only thing that you see are the 10 operators revealed at the start of the reveal phase. That's it. If somebody doesn't use a 6th pick, you don't know. If they use a 6th pick, you don't know. If they change operators, you don't know. That's just the way it works. But for the first time today, Mira manages to escape being banned as well, Michael. So that means that we can see a Mira on Oregon. And could you imagine playing this map without a Mira? That would be an absolute nightmare.
Yeah, so on that note, let me just go back a little bit to where we were talking about 3 bomb sites you have to defend. No, without a Mira. You can't defend the basement very easily without one. You can't defend kitchen very easily without one. I mean, it's doable. Don't get me wrong. There are ways around the lack of a Mira. This game existed before Mira, but it's not easy. It's really difficult. So her making it through that ban phase, definitely going to aid both teams when they're on the defensive side. But to begin with, Obey for the first half.
So we've already managed to see Evil Geniuses take control of the west side of the building, and now they have a crossfire established in Garage just to see if there will be somebody pushing through Meeting Hall. You've also got Canadian now, who is not going to be doing the calls that he usually does. Now, he still remains the team captain, but is no longer going to be the primary caller. Canadian will do some work on one of those walls, take out everything around that reinforcement. This vigil play inside a Meeting Hall would typically be Skies' role, but you've got Maman on it at the moment. You've got Skies playing more on site, which is an interesting change for Obey. Maman will give his position away as a drone goes by. He'll take some damage from a grenade, not much, as both he and Adam will head for the hills. Adam drops through the hatch, but Maman will still play by sandbags before he also drops.
Yeah, and to touch on what you were saying about Troy, I have to say, moving Canadian onto a more independent role is probably the right call. As an individual player, he's got one of the best game senses in North America, and I think that's something that's always helped him stand out. And trying to apply that to an IGL role can aid your team quite a lot. It can sometimes also just get in the way. And allowing your best game sense player to just, use his game sense to get kills for himself is honestly a really good call for EG. BC, on the other hand, one of those players you can really lean on. All that said, though, What is going on here? Evil Geniuses waltzing in and planting. Where's the yokai drone? Where's the C4? Where's the gas canisters? What's going on? A simple smoke screen from Necrox, and Skies has been down. No C4 from him. Adam's going to follow up the plant with a kill onto Canadian, though. But EG are holding firm. NVK and Young get one for themselves, and it's a simple hold here in the post-plant. There's not much to be said about this. Fermi gonna drop down from tower, and Skies, after being picked up, will get one, but cannot get any more. So Gurmi from the tower will get a single kill before making his push onto the main lobby. Now, he's got a decent amount of time on the diffuser still, but he's gonna have to read the BCs inside of the kitchen, and it's very unlikely. It's an odd position, but he manages to make it onto the stairs with very little HP. Re-challenging, there's no time. He cannot win the round. Evil Geniuses get round number 1 in spectacular fashion due to complete negligence on Obey Alliance's side.
It was somebody asleep at the wheel, and I can't even really put my finger on what exactly it was either, because it didn't make any sense. You've got everybody still alive on both sides on attack and defense. You've got 2 yokai drones, none of which are scouting out the possible smoke push. Maybe they just didn't hear the sound cue of the plant going down. That is an absolute head scratcher.
It really is puzzling, I have to say.
So we'll go into the reveal phase here for the 6th pick and see if there will be any changes made. Because of the fact that they lost downstairs, Obey is perfectly welcome to go back. Skies, who was on the Vigil, will swap off to Legion. They'll put Gurmi on the Mirror, and they will opt to go to the 2nd floor. So they will go up to Dorms and Dorms main hall. As Michael, I would like to make a concerted effort to remove the word kids from the site, if at all possible.
It adds confusion. Calls.
It's not great. It's not great having to say things that, precede, or
we could just say
the word kids. Dorms in main hall.
Dorms. Dorms works.
Or even bunks. Is it bunks?
Well, you can't say bunks. We can't say bunks. There's 3 rooms with bunk beds.
Yeah, there are 3 dorm rooms, Michael.
It's
a mess.
Dorms
okay?
works.
It's a mess.
One of the confusing things with Rainbow Six is there's no consistency with the calls, and a lot of people are like, oh well, everyone has a different call for each room, each site, each stuff like that. And the truth is, yeah, that's definitely the case. I mean, each professional team has individualized calls to some extent. You got teams like Penta, which have like ridiculous calls that make almost no sense. Don't listen to reality at all, but they're specialized to that squad. And then you have some teams, like specifically, I think mostly North American squads, who will have a lot of descriptives, but they'll use different things to denote their description, right? So everyone's got their own calls. That's just the nature of Siege. There's no uniform for that.
SK loves to name obscure locations based upon Brazilian players. I know that they have Zig and Nesk on most maps from what I've heard.
I remember talking to a team once. Okay, never mind. Let's drop this for a while. BC, first kill of the round. What even happened there? He's all the way outside, and it must have been my man going for a run out. We'll find out in just a second. As you can see, Marsu looking for the kill. I don't think anyone really knows.
One thing worth noting, you can't actually select a dead player any longer. But previously, you used to be able to...
Must have been through the white stairs window, but that was weird.
Drone hole?
It could have been the drone hole, maybe, yeah.
That is a very odd place for it to be. Anywho, I was going to say one of the things that's changed actually about the spectator model is you can no longer look at dead bodies. So you used to be able to hit the corresponding key to go to my man, and you can't do that any longer. It will not let you. Now NVK takes out Skies, and this is just systematic at this point. But Gurmi will get one on the Canadian. Necrox is going to rush in, and he'll refrag. So Canadian essentially gets traded off, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on both Adam and Bosco to just hold down onto the site. Now these are 2 very clutch players. Necrox downstairs will just narrowly miss out on having to breathe in any of that toxic gas, and you can see how low that Dokkaebi is. That means that Necrox would be dead in an instant, but he will persevere.
Now the complication here for Evil Geniuses, and I think you've called it before, it's the 2v4 trap. The mentality of you've got the advantage, you could just play for the aggression and win the round, and that's all you need. Now, Evil Geniuses is one of those teams that very rarely falls into this trap. But at the same time, we're also talking about an Oregon defense at the top floor. And I would say this is probably one of the best sites to clutch out on as a defensive squad. As long as you've got control over top of white and dorms, you've got a good chance at it.
The only worry that I would have are the explosives that are still available to the attackers. They can blow that floor out from beneath you. Yeah, there's no buck available, but you still got grenades, you still have the Zophias. Bosco will take out BC. Adam is there, and Michael, you were absolutely correct. That's 2 quick kills for Obey to even it.
And now it's 2-2 with only 30 seconds. And Obey, all they need to do is just wait it out. NVK gonna vault his way into his smoke, and oh, just narrowly missed the shots onto the Bandit. Bosco, meanwhile, gets his teammate, and NVK with 1 HP has to win in a 1v2 with only 15 seconds. It's not gonna happen. Adam with the C4 from the top of White, and Obey Alliance clutch it out, 2v4, in a situation that we have seen many times happen in the favor of the team at the disadvantage. Defending that top floor, as long as you have control over top of White and dorms, is not as hard as it seems. That is not an uncommon victory that we just saw from Obey.
If I feel that if Evil Geniuses had taken a buck, that could have been a very different story, because at that point you would have had virtually unlimited destructibility beneath them to completely tear out the ground and knock them off their footing. This wasn't the case, though, and my comments about IQ and Zofia maybe having destructibility could have possibly been, drained at that point and just simply depleted and not able to be used to push them out. Here is Canadian flexing onto that Twitch, as I made mention of. So they don't really need a Thatcher and can't rely on that Thatcher as much, but we've seen Canadian run that Twitch just as a simple comfort pick often, not really using the drone outside of just taking care of the mirrors, which is of course its intended targets, but also for probably the best gun, I would say, at the moment in the game in the F2.
And the F2 is definitely a beast of a weapon. Puzzlingly, and I think this is pretty objective. If you go and test it out, the muzzle brake is honestly probably the best attachment for the F2, and I have to imagine it's some sort of mistake, because it's been like this for a while, but you have next to no recoil.
The same with Buckscout. The C8, which is notoriously hard to control, especially with an ACOG.
Stick a muzzle brake on it.
Stick a muzzle brake on it, and somehow that recoil really disappears. Maybe it also happens to be co-conspirators with the vertical grip on Jaeger's carbine, which without the grip actually happens to make his gun more accurate than with the grip. It's all, Michael, it's all very odd when you look at it.
Yeah, and if you're questioning this, really seriously, go test it out. It's kind of confusing, but yeah, a very powerful gun, very high DPS, little to no recoil if you use the muzzle brake. So very confusing there. But Canadian is also, as an individual, one of the better Twitches out there. And it's definitely going to be helpful for his team since there is still Mira in play. Now EG are going to be attacking onto that basement hold from Obey, which they were successful in doing last time. However, they were successful because Obey set themselves up really oddly and used none of their plant denial and just allowed EG to walk in and get the defuse plant, simple as.
Played it really well, but also you have to point a finger at the way that NVK played the top of White Stairs. He should have been able to get that kill on the Bandit of Adam playing, at which point there would have been no C4 there at that issue, leaving Bosco alone in what should have been a 1v1 in Dorm. So, I mean, yes and no to me on the way that Obey played that, but even then, that's looking at it through one very specific lens. You have to absolutely give enormous credit to Obey for the way that they got those 3 kills to put it in the 1v2. You can see EG will put a lot of pressure on that meeting hall now, and you can once again tell Obey falls off very, very fast. They immediately hit the deck. This is something that we saw the team known as Most Wanted, now known as Space Station Gaming, do 2 seasons ago, was the moment that meeting hall pressure would happen, they would kill that time and drop off down back into the basement.
My man doesn't know how close he is to death right now. And actually perfect timing from a man. He's going to choose to rotate into Attic the second that Canadian comes off of that hold. Really poor timing from Troy. Unfortunate for Evil Geniuses, but very fortunate for Obey. It means that they have a late flank potential and no flank watch right now from EG. It's all up to my man, though, to time it perfectly. It's not an easy task, that's for sure. And as the Dokabi uses that ability, it's my man whose position is probably given away at this point. Possibly no, actually. Doesn't seem like EG's aware of it. 45 seconds, though, and here comes the push.
I would imagine that they are probably very aware that EG's push is going to happen. This is the exact same thing that happened last time. There is an Echo in play. Can Gurmy get the drone over there in time? No. He's just simply going for kills. NVK will eliminate Gurmy, though, and once again, the plant will go down, and Obey has no idea. Something is grabbing and captivating the attention of Obey. Canadian will shred my man as he tries to push out of Meeting Hall. Adam will take out Necrox though, and one more down as Bosco pushes up. And it's BC and Skies engaging, and it is 2 very swift kills for EG, as Bosco unfortunately credited with the team kill onto Adam because of those toxic babes. But still, the second time that Evil Geniuses have been able to take control of the bottom of those stairs into Laundry Room, and Obey has been completely asleep at the wheel. Good timing from those Dokkaebi phone calls, sure, but what is Obey doing that they have no attention whatsoever? Is it just simply good coverage from Evil Geniuses? I am perplexed.
You said it. It's really confusing. Now, just because we're not seeing it doesn't mean it's not happening. There's got to be something Evil Geniuses is employing here to make this strategy run so smooth, because Obey is not a sleeper. They are a good team. They know what they're doing here. But one thing I have to point out, and I really have to question as well, who was the first one to die on that round for Obey? It was Gurmy. And who's Gurmy playing? The Echo. What's going on with those yokai drones? Where are they? The first line of defense, the last line of defense, truly one of your most powerful anti-plant devices, and it's nowhere to be seen, not even close to the plant position. I really got to question it. Now, it could very well be just good play from Evil Geniuses, good use of the IQ as well. But whatever the case, all of the tools that Obey are using to try and deny that plant are being thwarted, and it seems like an easy breezy lemon squeezy win for EG as they push in through that main lobby. Now, that said, Obey have to go somewhere else. They are very clearly struggling with the bottom floor, unable to defend it successfully, so they're going to flex onto their third bomb site of Oregon, and it's going to be the kitchen and cafeteria. This is what I think most people would expect as the third site.
And they've locked dorms, right? So they have to go somewhere else. And they did well on dorms. It came down to that really steady 2v4 hold that they had. But they can't go back there at least until the final round. So they could at least have one more kick at the can, but you don't want to find yourself in a 3-to-1 position.
Absolutely. It is very scary at that point. Now, NVK going to be pushing into Junk Tower extremely fast. This is thanks to some good drone work from his teammates. It looks like Necrox the one to assist in that dronage. Now, you do have a very aggressive Maman playing Ella all the way up on the indestructible wall. So this wall that Maman's hugging right now is the main point of conflict for this site. But there's so many things that go on around it. For example, control over lockers and showers is a big deal in this site. If you have it as a defensive squad, you have a crossfire. Maman, though, the aggressive hold dispatched. He's supposed to last a solid, minute and a half longer than he just did.
I feel like you had just set up every single bit of evidence to prove your case, and NVK just tore it apart. As Maman, you were talking about Maman's power position, and NVK was able to get that kill really, really early on. There was no support whatsoever.
I hold no responsibility for the misplays of Maman kicking into the ankle that NVK is holding. That's not on me, Parker.
And the Soothsayer Kickstar can't call them all. BC manages to take out Bosco with a great toss that was inside of Showers, playing down by the bottom of White Stairs. And already Obey finds themselves 90 seconds in, down 2 members, including who could be their most clutch player of Dylan Bosco as the smoke. And that is unfortunate to have no smoke available for you when the final push comes to happen.
So the 2 most important positions right now in this defense have already been dispatched by Evil Geniuses. They're very understanding of how this defense is set up. In fact, Evil Geniuses, these players, a lot of them were some of the guys who set up this original strategy on Kitchen back in the beginning. Young is going to get the headshot onto Gurmy, and it seems like it's just a complete landslide for Evil Geniuses at this point. Honestly, don't think there's a whole lot that Adam's guys can do, but they're certainly going to try. As Adam still has that buzzing phone in his pocket, he's going for a retake into the lockers. And Skies can see Young there, seemingly, and is going for the shots, but unable to land it. Necrox will finally shut down Adam, and it's Skies now who has to fight through a phone call, an EE1D, and the inaccessibility of all of these attackers to get the win, and it's just not going to happen. So the strategy there was picked apart as was expected from Evil Geniuses. The hold from Obey is You know, a lot of you guys are probably thinking, oh, it's a new thing. You know, they got to figure it out. It takes time. The truth is, kitchen hold in particular was invented way back in like season 1 and 2. Kitchen was experimented with extensively in the beginning of the Pro League. So that hold is something that both teams are well versed in. The only major difference is the operators and things like mirror windows.
Right.
So an interesting attempt there from Obey, a decent attempt. They had all of their stuff set up. They had all their ducks in a row. It looked good, but EG knew this strategy, and they picked it apart one step at a time. They took out the player on table next to the indestructible wall, that power position we talked about, so essential. And then a simple nade was all it took from BC to get locker control because there was no ADS, a huge misstep from Obey.
Yeah, and they'd even planned for the possible rotate out a big window, which it looked like for a second Adam was going to attempt as he shot out that big window looking as the Jaeger to try and maybe run to that small tower, but already a Claymore that was situated underneath the window in case he went for that vault in. So Evil Geniuses have managed to turn a map that really should be a lot closer given the fact that Obey is starting on defense, which is really what should be winning a lot of these times. And they have managed to run up the score at the moment, 3-1, and it's been a really good team effort. I am very impressed with how BC at the moment is top fragging while also IGLing. Keep in mind that with the exception of DreamHack, this is his very first Pro League match where he is the one being the primary shot caller. You've seen some changes where BC is playing less of a support and less of an anchor role. You've got a couple other people flexed onto that, and we'll especially see it on defense. But right now, the changes that they've made, the little tweaks that EG have made, have been very successful so far. For Obey, there's been some promising sights, but this is still a team that I think is going to take a couple weeks to really find their footing. And having spoken with them previously, there was a bit of relief to know that they were getting EG first off so that they could see how far they've come as a team so far. And really, like I said, stress test the roster.
Yeah, and like we talked about earlier, they're going to get to play against EG again later in the season, towards the very end, in fact. But, and I think I actually touched on this, they're probably going to be a very different squad at that point. So we could see a completely different result. So that was BC checking the drone hole. Looks like that's where he got the kill onto my man a couple rounds prior. And that would make sense because the 5.52 does so much damage that even if you're shooting the foot, as long as you get a couple shots off onto a 3-speed, yeah, you're gonna get that. You're gonna get that kill. So good job to BC checking that earlier. Unable to get a kill this time around, but that's obviously because Obey is aware of it now.
The one thing that is really jumping out to me right now is how fast these rounds are going for both teams.
Yeah.
Is that Evil Geniuses are setting a very brisk pace in being able to get in and open things up. They will use those proximity-based concussion mines to know that there's pressure. And look at this, they are just hunting them down as there is going to be yet another wall where a peek hole will be opened up by those X-Karos. That'll be into the kitchen from the dining hall. NVK on his belly, we'll see one. And with Young, they'll tag team the kill and a frag that'll dispatch Adam. Now the mirror will disappear, and that appears to be one playing inside a bathroom. The cross from NVK being held as now BC will join him in prime, a frag grenade. And once again, more concussion going out. The phone call being rang, and an ADS will save the life of the Jaeger of my man. Another smoke will go out, and he is just pinned at the moment.
Yeah, not a great position for my man right now. Evil Genius is completely encompassing his spot. My man will get lit up thanks to a poorly positioned prone and his leg extending around the corner. Now he's only got 1 bullet's worth of HP. Not a great spot. He's still being called. He cannot answer that phone. There is no way, no how. BC missing so many shots there, but through the wall, it is able to finish off my man. And BC gets the confirmed kill before Bosco from above helps out his teammate and gets the refrag. Skies from Meeting Hall, good roaming pressure here. He's going to even it out, actually. And this is reminiscent of the first round Obey managed to win defending that top floor. It seems to be happening again, but even more in their favor now. They've got a X-Factor, Skies on the roam, and those 2 anchors.
Canadian will watch the rotate of Bosco, but he'll just miss. Canadian, you can't be letting those go to waste. And of course, Bosco will capitalize. That's a heartbreaker for him. Sky's still on that roam. You said the X-Factor, NVK down, and Young will have to wade through a lot of toxic plume as another grenade will go through. The Habana in, but she is absolute dead meat. Bosco there to catch the final member of EG. And here's what you do as Obey. You just try to go upstairs as much as possible because their only 2 victories will come on the same site. We will now switch sides and see how well EG can play on defense, as at least as Obey, you didn't put it to a point where it was almost match point. You closed that gap ever so slightly. You still let EG take 3 away from you, but you didn't let them run up the score farther than they already had.
No, you're absolutely right. A good move there from Obey, managing to deny a complete landslide in Evil Genius's favor. However, I will say that this map has seemingly been very dominant in EG's favor, regardless of what the round count is telling us right now. The only thing that Obey has seemingly been in a good position to win is a defense of the top floor. Everything else has been been a bit of a struggle for them. So they're going to have to show us that they can persevere through that struggle now as they switch over to attack on the second half.
So Skies will flex onto the IQ, and we'll see Necrox go onto the castle here as the downstairs site is locked in on Laundry. Now, a castle being played on this site, not really outside of the ordinary. You'll usually use those castle barricades to extend your site up into the meeting hall, maybe drop a hatch or 2, and see essentially how efficient they can be at roam clearing.
I really like that in that bulletproof camera being placed behind the mirror window that you can see BC setting up right now. That camera, I know it seems a little bit weird, it's going to be able to see through the mirror window and any of the smokes that Obey will set up to get the plant. Now, they only have 1 set of smokes right now on Obey's side, but that's a really smart call from EG. That camera is going to give absolute information. And if any of them are dead, then, you know, simple switch onto the cam to call out for the plant.
It'll also give you the eyes without having to commit a body to peeking around that mirror window, right? And it's something where you'll usually have 1 or 2 of the attackers staring right down, waiting for the smallest peek to be able to punish you.
Well, that's an interesting move. BC is going to go for a double reinforcement in the closet. That does not often happen. And a mirror window on the left reinforcement as well as the right reinforcement. So this is something new. Okay, so this has to be this has got to be clearly in tandem with the bulletproof camera. The second one has been broken. So what this means is a lot of the time what the attackers will try to do is Ash or Zofia the unreinforced wall next to the mirror window so that a grenade can follow that up, or a flashbang can follow that up to disrupt whoever's playing in the closet. Now it's going to be a lot more difficult to thread that needle through a banded broken mirror window. So I like this setup from EG.
It is certainly innovative to see that. And I mean, I feel like we did at one point. I feel like we did at one point see the double mirror being used down there for a very short period of time, and especially popular, and it made the rounds on a number of content creators' YouTube videos.
Yeah.
That fabled double mirror strategy where you open one of them and you leave the other one closed and you play it as if it was an exposed area, such as a destroyed wall.
Yeah, no, it's not exactly new, but it is smart. I mean, especially on this site, I'd have to say that's a really good call. Now, Obey still has their nades, and they seemingly are setting up to use them, but it's going to be a lot more difficult for them. If they can hit that, especially considering this bandit on it, I would be very much impressed. Now, Bosco just trying to hold that angle, and here comes the nade into the hallway instead of the mirror window closet, because you can't do that anymore. And it's not going to hit anyone because EG is playing very safe.
Yeah, and they managed to kill a ton of time. There still haven't been enough of a focus on this meeting hall. Both NVK and Necrox are positioned in as basically, it looks like Obey is ready to swarm, but the castle barricade is still up. There's one small hole that's been opened. You can see NVK waiting. I don't know what he's quite looking at as he's trying to survey. Just a bit of a glitch, and he'll take out the buck with great ease. My man falls. That's the buck down. And now Adam is next up on deck, trying to make it through NVK, whose phone is ringing, and he'll see if he can just hit him, but will manage to get him on the smallest angle. Adam falls. Plant going down, though, as Gurmy goes to reset, seeing if they can make it happen in time. C4 goes out and will get Gurmy quite easily as Skies is opening up the kills for Obey, but still 4v2. Bosco and Skies left. Necrox will take Skies' head off, and Bosco is last man standing, trying to see if he can spot anybody.
15 seconds to go.
Basically, this round is over, Michael. There is no way, I would say, that he's going to get this 1v4 as he just situates himself over top of the hatch. We'll have to grab that diffuser and bleed out the time, but there's somebody there waiting. He'll at least get Young, but it's a fair trade. And EG will snag the round.
So that is going to put Evil Geniuses now on a 4-2-2, if I'm not mistaken, round count. So great job for them so far. They are in control. Obey, on the other hand, struggling on that attack. Now, the main thing to note for me from Evil Geniuses is their anti-plant, their denial of that diffuser was well in hand. The C4 was going where it needed to go. The gas canisters went where they needed to go. I mean, everything was working for Evil Geniuses, and that's something we didn't see a whole lot of from Obey. Now, the cause or the reason for that is you could chalk it up to Obey not running any disruption. You could chalk it up to Obey not getting control over Meeting Hall, maybe not pressuring in any vertical way whatsoever. You could say it was because the smokes were misplaced. It doesn't really matter. Ultimately, it is what it is. The plant was not able to go down, whereas when Evil Geniuses were the ones attacking, they had a relatively easy time of it.
Now, two interesting swaps here. Canadian will go on to Pulse, probably one of his best, if not his best operator, I would say.
Agreed.
Bosco going on to the Beard.
Blackbeard, yeah. So, I mean, Bosco's actually a pretty good Blackbeard from my recollection.
Could be one of the best in the world. I think Renshiro will give him a run for his money.
Renshiro, BC, and Young, actually, both of them are pretty good Blackbeards as well. But yeah, no, Bosco's a nasty Blackbeard, and he could put in some really good work on this in this round, especially considering the site that he's attacking right now. So something to keep in mind is we actually haven't seen Obey attack anything other than the basement. It's entirely possible that we have opposite effect here, where Evil Geniuses are effective at attacking, or efficient at attacking the basement, but not the top floor. It could be the opposite here for Obey. Maybe Obey is good at attacking the top floor, but not the basement. So this could be the switch up that Obey needs to get their foot in the door and really start clamping down on those rounds. We'll have to find out as it plays out, as this is, again, the first time.
The man who almost single-handedly brought the SR-25 into the meta by playing it and wreaking so much destruction will likely position himself on either those dorms windows, the kids' dorms windows, or possibly even the big window and just play from that angle. Of course, they will first start out by figuring out if there's anybody inside of Big Tower, and right now the drones will come back and assess whether somebody's up there or not, and maybe go for a push. But you can see there's a heavy investment of Evil Geniuses onto the main floor, especially the western side of the building, and led by BC, playing inside of that small tower.
So because Obey has taken control over the big tower, it is evident that they are going to be pressuring those B windows quite a lot, the north windows. If you don't really take control over tower unless you're going to put at least a little bit of pressure on these north windows. You can do it for a master take, although it's not exceptionally necessary, although it can be really handy. It really depends on how you want to execute your strategy. But here it is clear that Obey are attacking north windows, which means they're attacking the B bomb site. And that makes a lot of sense because of, again, Bosco and his exceptional skill on Blackbeard. Now he's going to spot out this Mira sitting in the corner, but he's got to deal with Canadian making a lot of calls for, oh no, Young, as I mentioned him, will be eliminated. Bosco, great angle play there. Repelling on those windows. Skies is going to spot BC in the junk tower, and Evil Geniuses are getting isolated and picked off one by one, but NVK actually not going to allow his brother of BC to be dispatched, at least not this early on.
And they're in a position to possibly fight for a kill or two, but I don't like where EG is if I am their team right now. This is good position for Obey, and they could possibly put a major push down on the actual site and force Evil Geniuses to go for the retake, at which point, as was said by Ranger in the first interview, you don't want to obviously be retaking against a Blackbeard. They also have a Lion. Now, NVK has fallen off, and this is going to be worrisome for BC. Adam just sprints right in, but it's Sky's credited with the kill on the BC, and NVK, I think, wisely reads that and gets out as quickly as he can. Gurmy, who is all off on his own, will get taken out by Canadian. My man holds the diffuser, so you don't have to worry about possibly retrieving it from miles away, but it has also allowed the Pulse to get back towards the attic and can possibly destroy that wall with the C4 for the full retake, and that's exactly what it sounds like he'll do. So he can get himself back up, currently situated in Generator, as an EE1D will freeze Evil Geniuses in place. Lighting up inside, Necrox and Canadian get two, but Bosco shreds Necrox. Skies finds NVK. Canadian is last alive. He's sitting on the diffuser. He knows there'll need to be a push. He sees one, the Blackbeard will falter, goes for the second. What a clutch from Canadian! Oh my! And he steals the round for his team. The Pulse, left alone on top of the diffuser, reads him like a book, and EG will move to match point.
The man who traveled the world, he went from every corner of the map to every other corner of the map. He went from Junk Tower, downstairs, over to Big Tower, back to site. He did everything and ultimately clutched it out. We talked about Canadian's game sense earlier in the match, and I think that was a great highlight of it, positioning himself perfectly to win that round single-handedly. So Evil Genius is now match point thanks to that clutch, and they got to be feeling really good about that as well. They're actually going to rotate BC onto Pulse. It's quite interesting, and Canadian's actually going to take up Jaeger's role. And instead of a kitchen, Evil Geniuses are going to do the unimaginable and go to the rear stage watchtower defense. So I say unimaginable, but it's actually not the craziest thing, I guess. Kitchen's a difficult site. Tower's a difficult site. They're both difficult sites. Like, you really can't. It's a toss-up, you know? But I'm not terribly surprised here by this decision from EG. And considering their dominance right now, I don't think it's going to be too much of a struggle for them to make this win happen. However, the main thing I want to point a finger at is yet again Bosco. Bosco on a site like this, playing Blackbeard, could be the absolute turning factor. That sounds weird, but he could be exactly what Obey needs.
Turning point.
Turning point. He's not a
he's
a person.
Or
you
the
know?
X Factor. You
The X
basically
Factor.
you mash the idioms.
He's the thing.
You took the idioms and you mashed them together.
Bosco thing win round.
Bosco
Blackbeard tower defense.
Bosco Blackbeard win round.
No, but for real though, he's probably
Og like fire.
he's probably exactly
Fire burn.
it's probably exactly what Obey needs to get this win, if we're being honest. The problem is he needs to find himself in the perfect position and able to enable himself to get those kills and get his team that lead. It's not easy with tower. I know it seems easy because there's not much ground for the defenders to cover, but because of the nature of the bomb site, because of how small it is, really, horizontally, a Blackbeard doesn't have a whole lot of flank cover, which means Obey is going to have to stack up on his flanks to enable him. And I don't see that happening because Obey's synergy has been miserable for this match.
There have been a lot of decisions made by members of Obey that have lacked a certain synergistic, if I can use that word, which I don't even know if it is a word.
Let's say it is.
But let's say
I don't know.
Let's say it is, because it's it makes as much sense as some of the things that I have witnessed so far today.
Good point.
I think it was a very winnable situation on the previous round, but then Gurmy got caught essentially by himself in that back tower, all alone, and got picked up by Canadian with nobody watching flank watch. He had a very small way in, but he had no way out of the other side. So I was very confused, but Skies will get a kill on a Necrox, who is just the Frost completely asleep at the wheel, and that is an easy read for the Twitch, and using that powerful FAMAS with the caliber-based destruction to shoot open the garage door and lead things off. Now, the one thing with Frost is, as you've said, a 9mm rifle that she uses is not a bad weapon by any stretch of the imagination, but it's pretty good. But the traps will be down, and that's really what matters most. Young getting some pressure inside of Meeting Hall, loses a portion of his health, and it is right now a siesta inside of the main lobby. Will Young get pushed as Bosco takes out BC? And I can see why EG would possibly go for this, but Gurmy's drone goes right by, and Young manages to capitalize on it. Goes for two. Young out of nowhere. Gurmy does not check the corner, and a key mistake from Gurman will result in the Valkyrie getting two, but Young will persist, going for another severely damaging, gets too greedy, and Gurmy, whose drone misses, able to finally get that kill.
That was a huge mistake from Gurmy and Bosco, both droning into that Meeting Hall, missing Young and keeping EG alive in the round. It was a sure thing for Obey, but now it's questionable. With very little HP on Gurmy, he's going to go down to just a couple bullets. The main influencing factor here is going to be Bosco, who is holding NVK downstairs. He's lost the mirror window, though, and he's going to hear the run out from Canadian. The pre-fires come, but not enough to get the Jaeger. A second for Canadian. It's all up to Gurmy with 1 bullet's worth of HP in 20 seconds. seconds. It's not likely to happen on match point. He's got to entry in and get 2. And they're both lit, but just not enough. Canadian with the headshot. Gurmy goes down. Evil Geniuses win in spectacular fashion in a round that they surely should have lost.
It's death by 1,000 cuts for Obey there. They just made simply too many mistakes. And when you're playing against a team like EG, those mistakes, they're going to kill you. And capitalizing on all of them is exactly what EG did. Good to see the very wonderful, really wonderful Valkyrie, though, there. And the elite animation. I think that might actually be the first time we've seen it in a pro league match.
Entirely possible.
Entirely possible. But that's a death by 1,000 cuts. Way too many mistakes being committed by Obey, and spare us that we're being too hard on them. They compete at this level for a reason. They are a team that is very talented and should have stacked up better against Evil Geniuses. But at least they can say they're working out the kinks and can identify what went wrong in that play, because there's going to be a lot of footage that they can review and pinpoint specifically where their rounds